So here's our next one. This is from Michelle, Bridget, Seamus, and Senny's podcast. This is dog breeder red flags.
With breeders, basic red flags versus green flags. One, they should have a contract. If they don't have a contract when you're purchasing a dog from them, that's a red flag.
And that's including the shelters too. Like you should have a contract in a shelter.
They should do health testing. There's a database that documents all of the health testing where you can look for your breeder's kennel and actually see the results and see all of it. Obviously, the people should be willing to talk to you and answer any questions you have. They should be willing to allow you to connect with other people that have gotten their puppies in the past and not be weird about that. So like there's stuff like that that's put into place that shows you that they truly care about their dogs, and their actual goal with breeding is to preserve the good parts of that dog breed and not to just pump them out as quick as possible and make as much money as they possibly can. And if they're willing to give you 2 puppies at the same time, don't go there.
Or they'll guilt trip you and be like, man, this dog's gonna be really lonely without its siblings.
And if they're in a rush to get rid of the dog, that's problematic. With breed,
strong statements on good breeding, right? Yeah. So many people get too hung up on the like adopt, don't shop thing, right? And like all breeders are terrible and this and that. That is not the case, right? A lot of times, getting back to the common theme here of like dogs, like all these aggressive dogs we see, if you could play out most situations that may have happened to these dogs that turned them into aggressive monsters, right? And you could play that out with 999 dogs or 1,000 dogs, and 999 of those 1,000 dogs you play those situations out with will not become aggressive because of those experiences.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do I have to say that again?
They're not just a product of their environment.
Well, the environment with that dog did cause them to go from this to this. Yeah. But the problem was the deeper issue was not the thing that happened to them, because with most dogs, if that thing happened to them, they would not become aggressive monsters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The problem is their genetics were so unsound that individual moment that with 999 out of 1,000 dogs would not be that big of a deal was such a traumatic big deal to that dog that it caused them to become that way. Right? So when you look at getting a dog, this is why we actually stand pretty firmly behind. If you want a very particular type of dog, like a lot of people want a German Shepherd, right? Or a Doberman or things like that. Sure, if you find a good, stable one at a rescue, like Merry Christmas, I'm happy for you, right? But if you want a sound genetic dog, you go to a responsible breeder for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's not that rescues are bad and that those dogs are just so, they've had such horrible upbringings and that's what caused them to be that way. It's that you know nothing about the history of that individual dog from a genetic standpoint of what caused them to be the way that they are.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So we are not anti-breeder at all. And a lot of people give a shit over that. Like one of the comments on this was like red flag of breeder, that they're breeders, And it's like, they're trying to preserve the integrity of a breed, and if they're doing it responsible and following the rules that they outlined in that, they should be putting out quality dogs that are going to make great family pets for people because they have sound genetics. They're healthy dogs, right? And they're going to do their part in making sure that if there's not a healthy one, like if they're like pumping out a litter, they've bred 2 dogs together, and that litter winds up being a mess of genetics, they're never going to breed those 2 dogs together ever again. They take them out of their breeding pool, right? So they're preserving the integrity of the dogs. And in many cases, the dogs that are in shelters, they're kind of here, we're going to jump around here. We're going to get into this balance training one because it highlights exactly the problem here, right?
I was at a shelter recently, and they're like, we never recommend balance training. And when dogs come back after balance training, they're 10 times worse.
No. What happened was you adopted out a dog with such severe behavioral issues that positive-only training was going to do shit. So the owners were like, we want to try to keep this dog. Let's do training that is probably going to give us the best bet. So they go to balance training, and then guess what? You can't fix a bad temperament in a dog. So likely what ended up happening is it didn't get them to the level they need it to be for it to be a safe or a good lifestyle fit for them. So they returned the dog. It wasn't the balance training that caused that. It was the dog in and of itself being the way it was. And the owners were trying to just give it the best shot they possibly could. But now the rescue could look at that and be like, Pumpkin was never like this before she left. And now she's terrible and they returned her.
Because no positive only dogs ever come back either.
Exactly.
I was at a shelter recently.
So exactly what they're trying to imply there
Yeah.
is that couple things. One, these shelters are consistently trying to push out problematic dogs.
Yeah.
I see it all the time when you read between the lines on a lot of the like write-ups and stuff that they have, where it's like they like cutesy their way around serious behavioral issues, right? Like doesn't play nice with toys, right? Means that this dog may be a serious resource guarder, and like we look at that and it's like, oh, a lot of people that like haven't experienced true behavioral issues are like, oh, my dog kind of resource guarded a little bit, you know, but they've never experienced a dog that when they resource guard, they actually can seriously hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Or in worse cases, literally kill somebody over stuff like that. Right?
Yeah.
So these people adopt these dogs. They're unsuspecting to the issue. They're like, oh my God, like, you know, like I got this dog. I hear all the time, right? We adopted this dog. This dog was an absolute disaster, right? I was basically lied to about the dog's behavioral issues. So let me try training. And they try the training thinking they're going to fix the dog, right? And unsuspectingly, they realize you're not actually going to fix the dog. In actuality, this dog will always, to some extent, be this way, but you could learn to, like I said, increase their threshold to things and, you know, set up your environment for success to help them thrive, obviously.
Yeah.
But when people go adopt a dog from a shelter, they're not looking for a project. You know, once they realize how much work is going to go into keeping and owning that dog, there are many people that are just going to kind of back out and wash their hands of it. And that is not to say the balanced dog training didn't work, or the force-free dog training didn't work, or the the dog was like unsavable or anything like that, or it made it worse, right? It's just to say that this dog was a problem to begin with, and they tried their shot at it, realized that this dog was still going to be a disaster with things, and then the dog gets returned to the shelter, and then in many cases, the shelter then will blame, you know, the training that they did, or they'll blame the owner as opposed to just looking at this is a really horrible candidate of a dog that shouldn't be getting adopted out.